Good morning. Fun scripture to preach on, right? I debated on this, and I came up with a story to tell you. A few of them, actually. But the first one, it was about 15 years or so ago. I was invited out to a camp in New Hampshire to be a chaplain for a family camp weekend that they were doing. And to be honest, the bulk of my responsibilities were pretty easy. It was evening devotions and then sharing a message at Sunday worship. But on Saturday, they asked me to also lead a Bible study, a short Bible study with any of the adults at family camp who wanted to attend. And I don't really remember the study itself. I don't really know what we talked about. But I very clearly remember a conversation afterwards with a couple who approached me. They wanted my thoughts on something, and after they asked their question, I realized that they probably thought that I was a pastor. You see, this couple was contemplating getting a divorce. And one of their hesitations, probably the biggest hesitation in doing so, was because of what the Bible said about divorce. Now, whether they were referencing today's scripture or something else from the Old Testament, they just could not get past the idea that God said that divorce was wrong. The couple was at camp for the weekend with their kids, and I sensed that it was kind of one last try at being a family and making it work before they'd made a decision about their future. So really, it was no pressure. Anything I said to them was going to be fine, right? So I'm pretty sure I did a really quick prayer for my words to be Spirit-led, and I did my best to answer their question. And as a good Lutheran, I came at it from a place of grace, talking about how God doesn't want to see divorce, but that God also created us with free will. And that free will means we're going to make mistakes. We weren't perfect, and we're really not ever going to be able to live a perfect life. And that while God would be saddened by the ending of their marriage, God also wants what is best for us and wants us to be in healthy relationships. I assured them that if living apart was healthier for all involved, then God understood and would never stop loving them. When I returned home after that weekend, I shared my experience with a friend who was a pastor. Thankfully, he assured me that my answer was pretty much what he would have said as well, so I wasn't totally off base. But occasionally, especially when I hear readings like today's gospel, I often think about this couple, and I wonder what they decided and how they are doing. Clearly, divorce was not an easy out for them, but rather an absolute last resort. And in many ways, I think this speaks volumes about the relationship that this couple had. It wasn't fractured or filled with hate, but for whatever reason, being married was perhaps not a good thing for them anymore. Today's gospel is about rules. Jesus is talking about Old Testament laws given to the people of Israel, but adding a twist to them. He doesn't brush them aside for something newfangled. He reiterates the rule and then takes it to a deeper level. It's not just about killing someone, it's about how we treat them. It's not just about divorce, it's about how it affects all those involved. Jesus points out that the rule isn't just a rule, it's a way of living with others. I had a friend who a year or so ago did a 30-day cleanse, and he followed the rules to the T for those 30 days. But I think what he missed was the point behind the rules and how it was designed to be a lifestyle change, not just a 30-day accomplishment. Kind of like the Pharisees. They kept the laws, but I think they missed the part about relationships with others. So while we could focus on the divorce part of my story from 15 years ago, in reality, I think it's a story about the couple's relationship. Despite struggles, disagreement, maybe some anger and frustration with the other person, these two people were still trying to make a decision together about what was best for their family. In a time of fractured relationships in our country, I gotta say, this is definitely a refreshing image. And I would say that today's readings are all about relationships. Relationships between us and God, and relationships between people. The Old Testament reading and the Psalm focus on our relationship with God, while the Gospel and the reading from 1 Corinthians focuses on our relationship with each other, which ultimately is about our relationship with God. So, imagine, if you will, two people, friends together, they're playing a game, maybe they're having a cup of coffee, going for a walk, whatever, spending time together. And for whatever reason, these two friends suddenly have a disagreement. They get mad, and then one of them does or says something mean. We've all been there, right? The two friends go their separate ways, perhaps one with hurt feelings, and the other either not caring or not realizing how their behavior might have affected their friend. But alas, this person realized, I haven't given my weekly offering at church yet. So they drop by to personally hand their offering to Pastor Peter. But Pastor Peter won't take it. Instead, he throws it on the floor and he refuses to accept it. The person picks it up and he tries to give it again, but no. Pastor Peter once again refuses to accept it. Now, we all know that this is probably pretty rare behavior for a pastor. So, of course, the question is asked, what gives? Why aren't you taking this? And wise man that he is, Pastor Peter pulls out today's gospel, and he points out that we must first be right with each other before we can come before God. What is it that you need to make right? Pastor Peter asks. And of course, being so self-aware, this person realizes that they have been hurtful to their friend. So they quickly go and find the person that they have wronged. They apologize. They strive to heal that relationship. And thankfully, good friends that they have, they are forgiven. And then the two friends return together to church to try once again to give the offering. And of course, this time it is gratefully accepted. Can you tell this is a skit we've done at camp? It's a reminder that not only do we need to have a right relationship with God, but we need to have a right relationship with others. A few weeks ago, one of the readings for worship was from Micah 6. God told us how to live, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. But even Micah put others first. Do justice, love kindness. Walking with God is important, but so is caring for those around us. But wow, living in community can be really hard. Having a good relationship with God, reading scripture, doing devotions, praying, experiencing God in creation, that can be kind of easy. But getting along with someone who annoys us, who has different political beliefs, or is too competitive at games, or leaves the dirty dishes in the sink, or whatever else causes us to cringe when that person comes around, that really is much harder. Ask anyone who has ever worked on summer staff at camp, and they will tell you how hard it is to live closely with other people. Little disagreements, they suddenly become a big deal. Things that were funny in June are just annoying in August. Personality differences can make you not want to work with someone. And yet, it's up to this community as a whole to work together to share Christ with others. It's similar to Paul's words in the reading from 1 Corinthians. I've used verses 4 through 8 as the devotion for summer staff in the past. Not only is it a reminder that we're not always going to see the results of the seeds that we plant at camp, but it's also a reminder that we all have a part to play in nurturing the faith of campers or in the faith of others. Just as the image of Paul planting and Apollos watering, so our summer staff play one part in someone's journey of faith. It's God who gives that growth, who takes what we have nurtured and brings us amazing things from it. Camp is a great place to grow in faith, but that growth comes from God. We are simply the nurturers. And I think the same is true for your congregation. This is a great place to nurture faith, to surround each other with care and with prayers and with friendship. And God uses all of that to grow faithful people. But if our relationships are fractured, are hurt by gossip or unkind words, then that growth is stunted. God can do incredible things in the world, but I do think that there's a reason the ELCA is playing the tagline, God's work, our hands. Our job as followers of Christ is to show God to those around us, walking the talk, so to speak. When we put love first, when we make sure that we are right in our relationship with others, then our relationship with God is going to grow even deeper. And then those rules that Jesus talks about in the 5th chapter of Matthew, maybe they aren't quite as hard as they sound. Amen.